They said she was a princess, gowned her always in a royal dress, one of a kind, oh so priceless. Said she was destined for success, and so for success she'd obsess. The fairy tales promised a happy ending, an exceptional art of storytelling. Said the dreams were worth investing, and so her walk she was always attempting, because when the wedding bells rang, she'd be impressing. The glass slippers beside her bed assured she was the right size, tucked them under her bed every night in case there were any spies. Every day in her sleep, the royal ball she'd fantasize, worried for her white dress she'd grow oversized, and so daily in it she'd entice. Avoided apples in case they were poisonous, never took the risk with strangers. Snow White made her all too aware of the dangers, grew her hair long in case he ever needed a ladder. Sketched the world she imagined on her wall. She was a painter, believed her wings would one day grow. She'd be a fairy. The heights for her were never scary. Not until the day she saw him hit her through the cracks in the wall, clenched her teddy tight as she watched her fall. Then she began hearing screams every day across the hall. With no strength left in her to stand, teary-eyed, she'd watch the lady crawl. She wondered if this lady ever got Barbie dolls or believed in fairy tales. The Cinderella story type of ending, what she was seeing was not a part of the details. Or was this woman's story still pending? Because pale face, scratched neck, broken elbows were not included in the tales. The white in her dress and the butterflies on her wall all turned into unrecognizable shades, because the only color she could recognize was red. Now she walks around with a daze, her wild imagination all left behind. In the previous phase, the glass slippers don't fit her no more, the white dress too small, and fairies just don't exist. She doesn't wish to visit the painted world and her wall Rapunzel inspired anymore. All she wants is to silence the screams and escape her reality. So she eats apples, hoping they're poisonous, not trying to grow her hair anymore. And she no longer thinks herself a princess. How could she? How could she? When her mother was never treated like a queen. Now, famous African writer Chimamanda Adichie once spoke of the danger of a single story. A talk I loved, which is one of my favorite TEDx talks, by the way, but one whose concepts I failed miserably in applying when my sister and I wrote this poem about 2 years ago. You see, the point of penning this piece was to raise awareness on domestic violence, but our story suffered from the danger of a single story. For too long, the narrative of violence and domestic violence in our society has been one of inequity. Men have almost entirely been represented as the aggressors and women the victims, and this was the narrative we were going by when we wrote this piece, a single story. Now, in the UK, for example, the statistics for domestic violence, it's been reported that 40% of the cases are cases of domestic violence against men. And so men are victims whose story has been silenced and downplayed for too long. And some years back, it was a taboo for women to come forth and speak out on domestic violence, be it harassment, rape, or any kind of violence against women. Basically, it was a taboo for women to come forth and speak out about this. But today, we've moved into a point in society where women are more free to do so, not completely free, but more free to come forth and speak out on these things. There's platforms provided for women. However, what is also true is that many men across the world are victims of violence and harassment. And today, violence against women and men has brought tears to the eyes, but the case of the former has been tears of empathy, while the latter has been from a point of humor. Take the Nyeri women case, for example, hashtag Nyeri women, a very famous Twitter hashtag which went trending. It was funny that men in Nyeri were being beaten up by their wives, but when we hear of domestic violence, in the case of women, it's not a joke. It's something that we sympathize with or empathize with. Now, today, men are finding themselves in that position women were in years ago, where they can't come forth and speak out on harassment or violence against them as a whole. And the same idea that men are supposed to take it, or that men are physically stronger and so it's okay, is the same idea that promotes patriarchy and misogyny in our society. Now, the great violence is indeed against women, but however, this should not be used as a point of denial of the violence against men. And so by asking that violence against men is taken into consideration, this is not a justification of the great injustice against women or a denial of that. I believe that it is time that violence was considered holistically in order to build a healthy society. This is not a call for advocacy to end violence against men. I'm sorry, gentlemen. This is a call to end violence against society. And what I'm saying is that we shouldn't be justifying why respect should be given. We shouldn't be justifying why real men should not hit women, or why we should respect our women because they're our mothers, our sisters, our daughters. I'm saying we should respect people regardless of gender, because the human society constitutes both men and women alike, and a battle solely for women or predominantly just for men will not produce a healthy human society. It is therefore in the interest of human excellence that the call to end violence is considered in totality as a battle for both men and women, a common battle and a common business, because violence is a common currency in both camps. Now, is this idealistic? Perhaps. But the theme today is worlds imagined. And so you can call this my imagined world, where we don't have to look at violence in terms of gender socialization. You don't have to socialize violence with gender, but violence should be looked at holistically in our society at large in order to build a healthy human society. Thank you.